Hi everyone, my name is Andrea and today's class is for swimmers. Swimming is a beautiful sport, low impact, very beneficial for the mind and for the body. But whether you are a professional swimmer or not, we're still prone to injuries. Most common injuries are neck, shoulders, low back. So in today's Yin Yoga class, we're going to focus on those areas of the body. So stay tuned and we'll see you on the mat. Hello yogis and hello swimmers. Today's class is dedicated to you, both of you, yogis and swimmers. Yogis, you can always benefit from Yin Yoga, and swimmers, this class is specifically designed for your swimming activity. So I'll talk more about swimming and yoga for swimmers. In the meantime, let's get started in Tadasana or mountain pose, and let's bring our hands together and let's try to just spend a couple of seconds here connecting with our breath, setting an intention and finding a purpose for this class. So the first pose for today's class is called Dangling. So let's place our feet parallel to each other, the same width as our hips, and we start folding forward from the hips, keeping our legs bent. At this point, you can either use blocks to place your hands on, or you can embrace your elbows and just let gravity take you down. You should feel a sense of well-being and relaxation right away on your low back, and just again, don't push your body down, just let gravity take you down, and relax, and don't forget your breathing. So still use whatever type of breathing relaxation works best for you. The counting is what works best for me, counting to 5 or 6 on the inhale and then 6 to 7 on exhale. It keeps your mind focused and away from other feelings of distractions that might arise during the practice. A lot of swimmers, professionals and amateurs, experience low back pain when swimming. There are many reasons for this low back pain, and we're not going to cover all of them. One of the reasons might be that it's actually postural, and as we try to clear the water, the head outside the water, we might be putting more strain on the low back, trying to increase the natural arch of the lumbar spine, and that eventually with time and repetition will create a sense of discomfort and sometimes pain as well. Another reason could be that we don't have strong abdominal muscles or gluteal muscles as well, and that could be an additional reason for this type of discomfort. So in dangling, we are putting some force against the natural curve, and that provides a natural, nice counter stretch to the natural lumbar spine, and that should create more space and perhaps alleviate some of the pressure in the fascia joints that might be causing that pain. So that's why you're probably going to feel some good sense of relief and well-being while in this pose. We're going to stay here for, again, a total of 5 minutes, which might be actually a lot if this is the first time that you practice this pose. So feel free at any time, if the sensation is too much, you're really getting tired, to just come out of the pose. Perhaps just stretch up and then come back down into the pose again. With time, you're going to be able to stay in this pose for the full length of the 5 minutes. And remember that in Yin Yoga, we use breathing to control the mind. So in moment of discomfort, and when we're trying to get out of the pose, that breathing will allow us to stay focused and kind of shut off anything else that's disturbing us, including our own mind trying to push us to get out of the pose. So again, don't rush into it. That will be with time. In the meantime, just trying to enjoy and relax and connect with your breathing as you stay in the pose. And gravity might take you farther down, and that's totally fine. We want to relax the muscles of our back in this case as much as we can. All right, so gently let's just start coming out of this pose and perhaps stand up and stretch. This was a tough one for me as well. I don't usually do dangling for 5 minutes myself, so I found myself struggling towards the end of this pose. But um, and that's a reminder, it's you need time to really relax into these poses. It might not happen the first time, so don't give up, basically. Next pose is Reclined Butterfly. To get into this pose, just roll up one or two blankets together, depending how much of a chest opener you want to have, and place it behind your back, ideally just below the shoulder levels. Place your back onto these rolled up blankets and bring the sole of your feet together and let the knee fall out, and try to find a nice good relaxation. This is a very relaxing pose. Great chest openers. You should enjoy this one here, especially after dangling. Just like for dangling, we should feel an immediate sense of well-being in this pose. And, uh, and the reason why is because we are opening the front of our bodies. Swimmers tend to have an overdeveloped front side of the body, and that's due to the styles of swimming, freestyle, breaststroke, butterfly. They're all overdeveloping the front, and that causes us, or causes the swimmers, to actually hunch forward. And the reclined butterfly is definitely one of these poses that create a counter stretch. So we're opening the thoracic area, we're creating space in between our ribs, we're opening our shoulders, and we are realigning our spine. By the way, excuse my dog. She felt left alone and she wanted to be part of this video. Very slowly start coming out of this pose without disrupting your body too much. Remove the prop, the blanket or the bolsters behind your back, and massage your lower back by bringing the knees to your chest and circling one direction and the other direction. And then when ready, come to all four. The next pose is called the saddle pose, and I'm gonna show you a variation actually, because I can't do the full pose. So if you're like me and you feel compression in your knees and your low back also get tense in this pose, then you might want to sit on a block in between your calves, and at the same time use a prop like a bolsters to place behind you. And again, if you don't have any conditions, pain in the knees or compression in the knees, and you're fine with your low back, then feel free to just sit on the ground and don't use any props and go all the way down, lay all the way down on your back. Although this pose for some of us can be quite uncomfortable to get into, for different reasons, as I mentioned before, maybe too much compression in the knees or previous injuries, or for just being low back extension intolerant. This is a great pose that touches on so many areas of our body. In fact, starting from the ankle, that provides additional range of motion to the ankle, and that's very important for swimming. In fact, the more flexible our ankles are, the more we're able to push back water when we are swimming, rather than kicking it downward. Also, our knees get tremendous benefits from this pose. The compression we create in our knees allow the synovial fluid to nourish the tissue surrounding our knees. Those are areas that usually don't get much of nourishment unless, again, we try to squeeze and get in positions like this. The third area of our body that this pose targets are our quads. We usually don't get enough stretching in our quads, and this pose definitely provides beautiful stretching, especially when we hold it for 5 minutes. As we move upwards in our body, now we target the lumbar spine again. Before, in our previous exercise, we did flexion. Now we're doing extension. Again, this is a delicate area of our body that usually swimmers complain of feeling pain or soreness. And so by exercising the low back, by doing flexion and extension, it provides that sense of relief, added range of motion, and overall well-being. So let's be very careful coming out of this pose. After 5 minutes in saddle, we're very fragile. So let's try to use the strength of our arms to push up and get out of the pose. So we're gonna get ready for the next pose, which is shoelace. As the name implies, we're gonna get our legs just like in shoelaces. This is a very hard pose for those of us who have tight hips, including myself. As you will see, I really struggle with this one, but that's the reason why it's so beneficial for myself, as well for everyone else with the same conditions. To get into the full pose, we want to crisscross our legs so that our knees are stuck together and our butt is in between our feet. So let's start with the right leg under the left leg. Now, here I would like to give you an additional pose for the upper body, specifically for the shoulders and the arm. I will show you how to get into eagle and or reverse prayer pose. In eagle arms, we're going to start by crossing the right arms under the left arm and trying to clasp our palms of our hands together. In reverse prayer, just bring the palms of your hands together behind your back, just like I'm showing you in the video. At this point, find the one that you feel is best for you for this practice. This is a combination of great poses for swimmers because not only is gonna help us open up the hips but also the shoulders. As we know, these are two critical areas for swimmers to perform better in water and prevent injury. In fact, when we create additional mobility for our hips, not only we prevent injury, but we're also making sure that the athlete performs better in the water by being more dynamic and more powerful. Through these poses, we are really empowering the athlete to work through the range of motion of their bodies in a more effective and efficient way. Very gently start coming out of the pose. Undo your arms, undo your legs, maybe stretch them out, shake them, do some windshield wipers, whatever your body needs. This was a very intense pose, and again, you might feel it in the other hip joints, as well in the shoulders. When ready, we're gonna do the same thing on the opposite side. So if you followed me in the previous pose, now you're going to switch. You're going to get the right leg on top of the left. And again, if you have open hips, try to stack your knees on top of each other. If you're more like me with tight hips, use a blanket or a props to elevate your hips and try to get into the pose best way you can. There should be no pain again. There should be just a good intense sensation in this. And same thing for the arms. We're going to crisscross, placing the right arm on top of the left. Very gently start coming out of the pose. Undo your arms, stretch out your legs. Do some windshield wipers. That's always a good counter pose. Inside rotation and outside rotation of both legs and hip joints. And when ready, we're gonna move to all four. The next pose is called toe stretch. So yes, indeed, we're going to get those little toes that are always neglected. We're gonna give them a good stretch. So to get into the pose from all four, just tuck your toes under and sit on your heels. We're gonna be here for not too long, but for some people this can be extremely painful. And remember, in yoga, Yin Yoga, there is no pain ever. So if it becomes unbearable, just lift up, stay up on your knees for a couple of breaths, and then you might want to try again. And if not, just stay as long as you can. There is a big difference between painful and trying to find or test our edges. So the toes are that part of our body that we usually forget and we often neglect. Whoever thinks about exercising the toes or stretching the toes. But in reality, it's a very important, they play an important function. They help us with the postures, and even for swimmers, they do have an important role, especially in the kicking of the water. Another great benefit for this type of exercise is that about 6 meridians actually start and end in our toes. So remember that through the practice of Yin Yoga, we stimulate the meridians, and we often unblock the energy that's stagnant in those meridians. So by targeting the toes, we are definitely affecting all 6 type of meridians. And finally, we made it to the end of this pose. So go ahead and tap your toes on the mat. Tap, tap, tap. And we're going to transition from here to child pose. So by staying the same all four position, just go ahead and lower your butt down to the in between your feet. Try to keep your toes touching, toes from both feet touching each other. And this is a calming position. We usually get into this in hard type of flows, yoga flows, when we are exhausted or we just need to catch our breath. But it's definitely a healing position. It's great for our low back. It decompresses the spine. It also massages the internal organ as well. So I love this position when your breathing starts accelerating and you want to just stop, calm down, reconnect with your breath, and then be ready to start again. But it's a great pose for your lower back. And as mentioned previously in swimming, that's one of the area that it's a lot of people have issues with. It's our low back. So I included this pose for swimmers for those specific reasons. Okay, so come out of child pose, come back to all four. And the next pose is melting heart with prayer hands. So to get into the pose from all four, you might want to use two blocks. I like it because it provides additional stretching to my upper body, but you don't have to. You can go without the blocks, but try both positions and see which one you like the most. From here, just place your elbows on the blocks or directly on the mat and start coming down with your chest towards the mat. So you want to make sure that the hip and the knees are aligned and your chest and your face are going towards the mat. So why is this pose good for swimmers? Again, what we are targeting here is the spine, especially the thoracic spine in this case, and by using prayer hands, we're also targeting the shoulders. Now, without disturbing your body too much, try to gently come out of this pose, but just to remove the props. Of course, if you don't have the props, just come out on all four without disrupting your body too much. Place now your right arm under your chest and come all the way down to melting hearts, just like you were doing before. But now your right arm is under you. Again, it's a different type of shoulder stretch. And we're gonna be here for just a minute. And now we're gonna switch arm, so come back to all four and just place your left arm under your chest and come all the way down again. Alright, and let's come out of this pose as well. If you want to do a couple of cat-cows from here, feel free to do so. And we're going to transition to the next pose, which is banana pose. So this is one of my favorite. It provides a great stretch to the side of the body, the whole side of the body. In this case, we're going to start stretching our right side. To do so, just stretch your arms above your head and your legs out, and then start moving your arms towards your left hand side, pushing your body towards the right, and then walk your feet over to the left as well. So you're creating a bow here. If you want additional sensation, you might want to cross the right foot on top of the left, and make sure that your gluteus and your shoulders are on the floor, on the ground. If they're not, you might want to let go a little bit. We want to feel a good sensation of stretching of our side, but maintaining our lower body on the ground. Personally, I find swimming kind of similar to the yoga practice, in the sense that the breathing, it's meditational to me. So there is that rhythmic breathing that we do in swimming, that's similar to the breathing I do in yoga. And so the feeling effects of both practices are that of relaxation or calming me down. Although we're working different muscles, of course, but I find some similarities between the two. Breathing is such an important part of this practice, and the way I like to do breathing during Yin Yoga is slow but deep breath of air coming through the belly first and then expanding to the chest. So push the belly out, let the air come in, and then move the air from the belly up towards the chest. Slowly come out of the pose and bring your body back to a neutral position, and when ready, transition to the opposite side. So you have come to the end of this class. Hopefully you feel more relaxed. Some of the poses were more intense than others, but everything passes. So you made it to the end. This is your time now to reap off the benefits of your work. So let go of any attachment, any criticism that you have on the poses that you did, you were able to do, you were not able to do as you wanted. Keep your breathing normal, and just try to keep this sense of peaceness and calmness, and as the body recharges. And start waking up your body by making small movements. Start with your feet, your toes, your hands. You might want to push out the bolsters if that's what you were using. And just when ready, come back to a seated position. Cross your legs, sit comfortably. Keep your eyes closed if you can. And bring your hands to your chest, prayer pose. Thank you so much for sharing this practice with me. Namaste.